Hello, everybody, and welcome to the webinar. My name is Aaron Young. I'm the chairman, CEO of Laughlin Associates. And as many of you know, we've been doing lots and lots of webinars during this time of international pandemic, where we have traditionally done a blueprint webinar. In our blueprint webinar series, we usually do a webinar once, maybe twice a month. We've been coming with lots of information for you 2 or 3 times a week during this. And as we're getting greater and greater clarity on some of the items related to the stimulus, related to kind of I really resisted the expression new normal, because I said, well, this is a temporary thing. But the fact is, we are learning a lot of things about how the national infrastructure works, but also how our individual business infrastructure works. And whether we have many employees or you work alone as a solopreneur, we're having to come up with new ways of engaging. So some of the things we're going to talk about today will cover the things that are immediately in front of us, as well as some conceptual things that we can start thinking about to be better prepared as we move forward in this, I'm going to say it, new semi-normal. I'm not willing to concede this is the new normal, but we will, there will be some different things as we move forward. So Jim, if you want to come on there, and if you want to take control of the screen, that would be great, and we'll get going. Are you working on that in the background?
You have me muted on your end for the video.
I have you muted on my end for the video. Well, here, I just made you the host. Okay, see if that works. Sorry, guys.
Now it says.
All right. So there you go, Jim.
Aha, there I am.
There you go. Take it away, brother.
Well, thank you so much. Well, I think.
Oh, wait, maybe I should introduce you.
Yep. Well,
wouldn't that be a polite thing to do?
Yes, it
All
would.
right, folks, this is Mr. James Conway of Blue Pacific Solutions Group. They're a financial strategy company, and they have a number of other companies that are part of this group, but that's sort of the front-facing part of their group of companies. They help you, basically they help you to grow your money and to protect your money. Well, they work with us to help protect the money. And Jim and Lorraine and Tyler and their entire team down in Orange County, California, have been important to me for many years as we've done lots and lots of projects together. And so I asked Jim to come and participate together in this specific event, so that we could talk about not just one topic. A lot of the things we've been talking about have been one topic. This is a little more holistic. We're going to talk about stimulus. We're going to talk about a little bit about making sure your business is safe. We're going to talk a little bit about this new idea of having to do work in maybe in a distanced way instead of everybody under one tent. So with that said, Jim, I'm going to turn the time over to you, and I'll probably be jumping in and out during this.
Sounds like a plan. Aaron, are you making a comment about my age if I'm wearing a blazer?
No, not about your age, about your sophistication in class.
Okay. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, tonight's presentation is a serious one. Those of you who have heard me speak or seen me speak before know I have a cornball sense of humor. You probably won't see that this evening. This is serious. And I want to tell a story about why I was motivated to participate in tonight's broadcast. Lorraine and I walked into a local Italian restaurant. Aaron, you've eaten there. Very good food. And I was talking with the owner because there was nobody else in the restaurant. And I was telling her about some of the things that I had heard that you could do, the new resources available. She burst into tears and said she had no idea She's been working so hard to keep her restaurant afloat, she hadn't had a chance to look around to see what else was there. It was an impactful moment for me and made me realize that simply knowing some of this information could be incredibly valuable. So that said, no further ado, let's go ahead and start. I'm going to go ahead and do the screen share thing. There you go. And now you should be seeing my PowerPoint. Is that correct? All right, perfect. So we all know about COVID-19. These are the international numbers that we're about to see. If I can get my mouse to work here. There it is. Yes, the number of confirmed cases has finally gone over 1 million. Please understand the confirmed cases, those are the people who felt poor enough to actually seek medical advice. This is not just all the people that have the disease. These are the people who feel bad enough to actually talk to somebody, a medical professional, about it. Now, out of that, worldwide, 52,000 people have passed. And here's an interesting number, 210,000 people are confirmed as having fully recovered from the disease. The interesting thing about this particular set of numbers is that it's changing rapidly. This number was last updated about an hour ago off Johns Hopkins University. I do recommend the website. You'll see it right there on the screen. If you choose to, you're more than welcome to follow along and go and check them out. Now, here's another thing that's very fascinating. Aaron and I were also chatting about this before the broadcast. This is an international situation. This is not just the United States, not just Europe. It's international. 46%, almost 47% of the entire world's population, 7.9 billion people, 46% of them are sheltering in place. That means the way we used to do business, what we knew worked before, is out the window. Things are changing rapidly. And what we want to do tonight is we want to give you some ideas on how you can address these issues in your own life, in your own business. This is not legal advice, not tax advice, not even loan advice. What we really want you to know is that this is the best we can put together, and it is the most accurate, up-to-date information that we have. It is a dynamic situation and subject to change minute by minute. What we hope to do is motivate you to actually take action. And what I mean by that is do something. In fact, the matter, Aaron and I talked about it, our two companies, normally in an environment like this with a webinar, we would make some offer and send you to a page where you could sign up and pay for something and the whole thing. That's not what we're going to do this evening. I'm going to offer you my company's link just so you can get involved with us. The link will take you, and there are 12 questions. The first question is your first name. The second question is your last name. It's literally that simple. It should take you maybe 90 seconds to complete. That will get you in queue so that you can speak with myself or any other of our professionals that we find is appropriate for you to deal with. There will be no cost to this. The whole idea is to try and promote financial success and survival during this outbreak. These are the numbers for the United States. 238,000 confirmed, 5,700 have passed, 8,800 have recovered. Many states have enacted a shelter in place that is dramatically changing how business operates. The new norm is social distancing. How many of us have seen the X's on the floor of the grocery store or the bank or whatever necessary institution we go and visit? Social gatherings are banned. Remote work is now necessary. It's not just an option, it's absolutely necessary. That said, many government agencies themselves have shut down. Think about that. That means stuff that we would normally take for granted is no longer happening. It's amazing and a dramatic impact. we want to show you 6 different steps that you can use to help you survive and even thrive during this particular pandemic. Number 1, we want to talk about how you can create increased cash flow. Excuse me, but I just want to make sure I cover all of my notes, right? So we want to do cash flow. We want to talk about tax. We want to talk about debt and structuring of debt, the possibility of getting new debt from new sources that's specifically made to help us recover through this event. We want to talk about steps for running your business for more success. See, here's the thing that's really interesting. If you take action now, you may actually be able to grow your business. And when things return to normal, you will be positioned for even better growth and better profitability. That's our desire for you. Position for growth, exactly what I was just saying. Avoid the litigation explosion. Oh yeah, we think that's coming. That's the next pandemic. Let's talk about cash flow. Why is cash flow important? Well, it's pretty obvious. Cash flow helps you pay for stuff. It's what you use to get things done. It pays for groceries. It pays for mortgages. It pays for. And if you have passive cash flow you don't have to actually earn, it takes the pressure off, at least to the extent that you have that much money. We're going to talk about the various ways to create cash flow. Now, what I mean by this is I'm talking about the types of cash flow that you can create. How does it work? How does the cash flow come to you? And let's talk about that. They're guaranteed pension-like income devices. You literally have the ability to create your own pension. In addition to that, you have collateralized income. In addition to that, you have rental income. So the pension-like income is your safest. Then you have collateralized. That's the next step up the risk scale. Then you have rent, which is the next step up the risk scale. And then finally, you have variable sources of income. Our team is perfectly familiar with all 4 of these. But now, let's talk COVID-19 for a minute. A couple of things we need to understand. Right now, anybody who makes less than $75,000 a year is going to get a check. The IRS is already in process of issuing money. We're going to be talking $1,200 per person, per adult, taxpayer. If you are a married couple, it's $1,200 per person and $500 for each one of your children. Let me explain what that means. I have a friend of mine that lives in Arizona. He has 6, count them, 6 children. If his income was less than $75,000 a year, he's going to get a lot of money. That is a source of income, isn't it? Now, that's completely temporary. We don't anticipate that ever happening again, but it's worth noting. And if it makes a difference in your life, it's worth planning around. You're going to have increased access to other sources of money, and we're going to cover that in a minute. We're talking government programs. We're talking your own money. We're talking equities. We're talking equity. We're talking rental income, the whole gamut. Let's talk about sources of cash flow. Where does the money come from to create these cash flow events? Well, the first is pretty obviously savings and investments. If you have money saved on the side, if you have investments, they can be transformed into income producing assets. You can sell one asset, buy another asset, produces income. Again, this income is incredibly valuable to help you thrive and survive during the COVID-19. Now we're going to go into some more programs and more specific about the COVID-19, but let's go over the basics first. Real estate, that is a source of cash. That is also a source of income. That's a source of a whole lot of things, including tax deductions. And now, tax savings. Here's an interesting situation. And I'm going to repeat this bit of information, okay? And when you sign up at the end of our presentation, or anytime you want to, go ahead and log on and do it while you're watching. Totally okay. Remember, there's no charge, okay? There's grant money.
Hold on, Jim. Sorry,
Yes.
buddy. Yeah, and somehow my video's turned off. You've turned off my video. Don't worry about that. Here's the point. Can you remind them of the link? Because I don't know the link, but you just gave them permission to sign up for it.
Let's see. It should be on the slide.
I don't know if we're seeing the very bottom of your slides, because we do have your work tray at the bottom.
Okay. Let's see if I can get rid of that.
So is that at bpsg.com/JC/Laughlin? Is that the link?
That's correct. That way, every client will come through, will know that they're coming from this particular event, that they'll get that special treatment.
Okay, very good. So I'm sorry to interrupt you in the flow, but I wanted to make sure they could get that link because I couldn't see it.
Thank you for pointing that out. Yes, my toolbar is really important for me, but doesn't do anybody else any good. So the information at the bottom is critical. So anytime you want to, you can go ahead and start that. Remember, it takes you maybe 90 seconds to get through that. Okay. Savings, investments, real estate. And now we're going to have special access to our IRAs, 401ks, what have you. I was just reading the rules over again, and here's what it sounds like. If you have an IRA, according to Forbes magazine, you can now roll over that IRA. It used to be 60 days. I'd take the money out of the IRA, I'd put it in my hands, I could use it for 60 days, and then I could pay it back into another IRA, and it would be a non-taxable event. They've now extended that, hang on to your hats, 3 years. So I can take my $100,000, put it to work for 3 years, and not worry about paying it back to my IRA until the end of the third year. I can also pay it back in increments or just about any way I wish to. But wait, there's more. You knew with a voice like mine, sooner or later, I would use that phrase. But wait, there's more. You also have the ability to borrow out up to $100,000. This $100,000 could come out of a 401k, 403b, or similar device. Normally, you're limited to 50% of the account balance or 100,000, or 50,000, whichever is least. With the new rules in place, it's 100% of the balance or $100,000, whichever is least. So if I have a $78,000 401k, I could borrow $78,000 out of that and go put it to work. The whole purpose of these special rules is to increase the availability of cash. To increase the availability of cash, in my mind, means that we have a whole new set of tools to help us create cash flow. And cash flow is what gets stuff paid for. The expression that cash is king used to be accurate, but the truth is cash flow is king. Because if you have positive cash flow, eventually you have cash, right? Continuing right along, we'll come back to some of this again. Tax savings, grant money. Here's the thing that's fascinating to me. You literally can be paying Social Security tax on an employee, and now you can defer that for upwards of a year. Now, there seems to be a little bit of conflict out there of whether it's half for 1 year and another half the other year, or it's 100% for an entire year. Either way, you get to defer paying Social Security tax, the employer's contribution to Social Security, right? Bear that in mind. That means there's more cash in your hands. In the next one, we're looking at debt structuring, relief loans. Now, we've all heard about the SBA relief loans. Today's presentation, one of the things that I will be doing is I will be introducing you to a variety of SBA loans. Some of them are available through SBA providers such as banks. Some of them are not. We will be looking at that. For instance, if you're truly under the gun, you can apply for an emergency $10,000 grant. Now, that's a grant, folks, to help you pay for stuff. So there are resources. We'll be going into that again in a little bit more detail a little bit later on. Government, SBA, IRS, EDD, etc. Here's the thing. Had an interesting conversation with an optometrist today. He has one staff member that's on payroll. He'd like to keep her on payroll, but of course, he is not considered an essential business. So how's he going to pay for her? Well, he literally ran out of money. He literally had to lay her off. Now, I've been given to understand that if he rehires her, right, that the government will allow him to get tax credits for having kept her on payroll. That's an amazing opportunity. We need to get busy to look for all these opportunities, because guess what? They're not one only. You could use multiple of these events, multiple of these. So it's really important. Okay, now we're going to talk about tax. This was cash flow. Where are my sources of money? Well, one of the biggest sources is tax and tax savings. So one of the things I want to do is I want to cover those tax savings, because the truth is, if you save tax, you have more money to pay for stuff. It adds to your cash flow. Are you getting the impression that I'm talking about cash flow as a way to solve economic problems during the COVID-19? If you are, you're right.
It's critical, Jim, because right now so many people are worried about, they're hunkered down going, oh, money's tight, or I can't do my business or whatever. This is the time right now for all of us to be thinking about, what can I do that might be a little bit different than I was doing before? How can I reposition my skills, my resources, my lists, whatever, my manufacturing, to do something that is relevant today? So yes, we want to look for government help, but just as importantly, we want to look for ways to dramatically reinvent ourselves to be appropriate in this new set of circumstances. You don't need to turn the camera on right now. I just wanted to cut in on that to make a point. This is partly about getting help from externally and partly about rethinking how we're doing what we're doing. Back to you.
Thank you, roving reporter man. That's what it sounds like, doesn't it? I feel like we're doing a news broadcast. I really do. Okay? What we really want to do, really want to tell something to our audience, Aaron, and that is that, you know what? With all the stuff and drama that's going on around us, there's actually a lot of good news. Think about this, Aaron. What could a small business owner do if he had more money, right?
For everybody that was worried about their 401k going in the tank, I've said this repeatedly, you have to remember that when those share prices fell, people bought the shares. You know, somebody bought at fire sale prices. So, but let's keep going through the slides. I'm going to have a lot more to say as we go deeper into this.
Very good. So one of the things, a basic tax tenet is to make sure you have proper reporting. Now, this is just making sure that the forms are filled out and that you're capturing the tax deductions that you're already reporting. This is not strategy. This is just proper reporting. Expenses as deduction. Now, this is something that Aaron talks about all the time, as do we, and that is, there's a lot of stuff you're spending money on that should be deductible. My favorite situation with that is I have a couple living in Hawaii, and they teach a martial art. And they don't do it as their main core business. It's something they do on the side. They moonlight with this. But they have passion. They enjoy the kids and teaching them the mental disciplines associated with any sort of martial art, for that matter. At any rate, they decided to take a trip. And they flew all the way to Thailand. They dealt with a master of a particular martial art that they were interested in, and that master gave them lessons. And they enjoyed themselves. They went there strictly to have fun. That was their purpose. But let me ask you a question. If you are being trained in what it is that you do as a business by a master in that business, shouldn't that be a tax deduction? And in this particular situation, it most certainly was. They came up with $6,000 of tax deductions just because of a vacation that they took. Think about that. That's what we're talking about, expenses as deductions. Payroll CARES Act. Remember the forgivable loan I was talking about? If you keep your people on payroll, you can borrow money from the SBA to pay for that payroll and other certain expenses. And if you keep the payments current and keep your employees hired, I think it's 24 months, you actually get the debt forgiven. Like, that's it, it goes away. Folks, I just told you there's free money. Okay, I'll let that one sink in for a minute. There's free money. Social Security tax credits. That's another one that I was telling you about. With you being an employer, excuse me, you have the employer side of the Social Security tax. You're now allowed to defer paying that tax to keep more money in your pocket now. That's a heck of a tool. Interest. Now, one of the things that we see all the time, this is basic, been around forever, and that is deducting interest on loans. However, federal law now prohibits any deductions on a primary mortgage beyond $750,000. But what if the interest was part of a business? Now it becomes a deduction. And that can be quite powerful. It all depends on how you structure your entities, how you structure your tax, and how everything coordinates with everything, right? State and local tax. Coming back to the interest, here's another one. State and local taxes are limited to $10,000. So imagine for a minute, we have a person who pays $9,000 to the state of California and pays $9,000 of property tax. Not particularly uncommon. They're limited to only $10,000 worth of write-offs. But what if 10% of their house was associated with a business? Doesn't that mean that 10% of their interest, $900, and 10% of their property tax, $900, is now tax deductible in a different schedule? So now they get $1,800 of tax deductions they didn't have before. That can be quite powerful. So it's the chess game of how you put together your tax return that can make money for you. Accelerated depreciation.
Jim, can I make one more comment on the tax? As I understand it, there was something that certain C corps and certain LLCs, depending on how they were reporting their tax, in times past, there's been something called the tax loss carry forward, which was taken away in the new tax laws passed a couple of years ago, but has been brought back in certain forms as part of this act. So for C corporations and for certain kinds of LLCs, and I don't know about S corporations right now, but it's been reversed back. So we now also have a tax loss carry forward. So if you're losing money this year, you'll be able to carry that forward and deduct it next year or up to 20 years. So that's just another one on tax.
And I was looking at right here, the Tax Foundation. That's the source of this information. Okay. Firms may take a net operating loss, NOL, earned in 2008, 2019, and 2020, and carry back those losses 5 years. Now, wait a minute, Aaron. This isn't even what it was before. This is even better than it was before. If I've got losses, but I paid a lot of tax back in the day, I get to take my losses and write it off against the tax year I had previously.
And they're saying they will give you that. They're saying they'll give you that refund from the last couple of years immediately.
Is that amazing?
Amazing.
Okay, folks, that's another source of what you might call free money. Okay. Now, NOL limit of 80% of taxable income is also suspended. So firms may use NOL to the full offset of their taxable income. The bill also modifies loss limitations for non-corporate taxpayers, including rules governing excess farm losses and makes technical corrections to several other types of NOL. Here's the bottom line. You really need a team to help you sort out which one of these new COVID rules are going to help you out, right? Sources of free money. If you've got sources of free money, you've got sources of power. You've got sources of resources to buy income. Think about that. All righty. Special relief under COVID-19. Now, we've all heard this. Guess what? Your taxes are not due April 15th. They're now due in July. You got an extra 90 days. Why? Because now you've got an extra 90 days before you have to pay that balance of tax. That's injecting money into the economy. That hopefully will inject money into your pocket. Special tax credits. We talked about this for employers who continue to pay employees. That's incredibly powerful because tax credits are not deductions. They're literally coupons that will pay your tax. So if I got $10,000 worth of tax credits, that's $10,000 of less income tax I'm paying. Incredibly powerful. Special temporary charitable gifts. Now, I mentioned this earlier. I've been giving this presentation a lot. I don't know if I mentioned it in this presentation, but here it goes. If I make $150,000 a year, and I was so inclined to help one of my favorite charities, and I wanted to give that charity $150,000, I would normally be limited to 60% of my $150,000 income. So even though I gave $150,000, I couldn't write it all off, not that year. With the new COVID rules, I'm able to write off 100% of my $150,000 gift to charity. So there's some exciting opportunities in the taxes with COVID and with good basic strategy. I hope I'm making that point. Debt reorganization. Now, some of this, no doubt you've already thought of or heard of, but we're going to go into a little bit of detail here. Refinancing an old loan with a new loan. If you can save payments per month, doesn't that save you cash flow and put money into your pocket? That's what that is. How about the next one? The next one that we're talking about right now is very exciting. Believe it or not, there's actually a methodology that could potentially, it says that you could, but potentially pay off an existing mortgage 67% faster. Now, there's a whole lot of subject tos, a whole lot of questions about that. If that's an area of interest, just let us know and we'll make sure that we address that for you. Student loans, this is exciting. Now, imagine for a minute that you're Aaron Young and you have a student with student loans in college. And as most corporate owners do with their children, they keep them on payroll. Here's a fun little factoid. You get to pay up to $5,425 towards that student loan. It is not taxable to the student, but still deductible for the company. Is that sweet? But wait, there's more. Imagine this for a minute. Imagine that your student has a federal student loan, and that federal student loan has a 90-day gap, no interest, no payments. So if I write that $5,000 check, aren't I getting $5,000 of principal right off the top of that student loan? I'm not paying any interest. So that's a wonderful 1-2 punch. By the way, doesn't prevent you from keeping your kids on payroll, right? Think about it. SBA is offering emergency recovery loans up to $2 million, up to 30 years of financing, and the interest rate, hang on, 3.75%. This is a phenomenal opportunity. Think about this. Imagine for a minute that I have a business, and let's say that business is hurting a little because of COVID-19, and I go for the relief loan. Assuming that I'm approved, imagine for a minute that I now have hundreds of thousands of dollars available to me. Could I buy out a partner? Could I purchase a new location? Could I upgrade my equipment? Could I hire the staff, right? I mean, there's a whole lot of what could you do with that money? Think about it. This is an amazing opportunity because that's cheap money. It's truly inexpensive. And
Jim,
it gets,
let me jump in on that real quickly. The two things. One is there are two different kinds of loans, 7A and 7B. 7A is the payroll side. 7B is the recovering and doing other things with your business, which I think is what you're referring to right now. The only challenge with the 7B loans is the pool of money is dramatically lower than the payroll pool. And so it will be important to apply for these things quickly. Don't delay. Only because, oh, did you already have it in here? Well, anyway, hurry.
we're mind melding.
Yes, the point is it's those that delay or think, oh, I don't know what to do, or I just don't know what to do. And so they stop, they freeze, will end up missing out because the pool is comparatively small, a lot smaller.
Yeah.
And as we talked about we talked about just unpacking specific stuff on A and B loans last night on a conference. And the speaker, Ron Fossum, who, we all work together, Ron said, if 1 million companies, which is only 1/22 of all the companies that are in the corporations or LCs, if 1 million companies apply and just get the $10,000 grant money, that will exhaust the entire pool. So we need to, and this is just opening up, as I understand it, tomorrow to be able to apply.
So, Aaron, just to let you know, this is more popular than toilet paper.
Well, I'm not going to make a joke about that. I wanted to so bad. So
Yeah,
let's keep
I realize.
going. I just wanted to make sure people know that there's a reason to get this information. Some of this money you need to decide. First of all, the SBA is not just going to give you whatever you ask. They're only going to loan money to you based on your ability to repay it. And it's very low interest money, and they're making it easier to get to. SBA loans traditionally are like the hardest loan to get, but they're making it easier to get, but it will be exhausted relatively quickly. So it's not for people who are sitting on the sidelines. You want to get involved quickly. And we have mechanisms as they fill out your form, Jim, we'll be able to direct them to help on filing with an approved, you have to be approved to file for these loans. And
Yes.
we can help with all of that if people feel that that's something that they want to do.
Yes, absolutely.
Pushing on.
And that was that's part of the takeaway that people will get by signing up, is that they'll get some direction of what's going on. Because one of the things that Aaron and I are deeply committed to is you taking action now. We're very concerned that some of these opportunities won't be around. Both of us, you saw it on my slide, you heard what Aaron just said without ever even looking at the slide. So act now. I know that sounds crazy, but seriously, people, we have a window of opportunity here. We could all absolutely crush it. This is phenomenal. By the way, the exact same kind of loans are available for nonprofits. 501c3s can get loans as low as 2.75% with the same kind of 30-year term, up to a 30-year term. So think about that for a minute. This is a phenomenal opportunity. I was speaking with my Rotary Club today, and in my Rotary Club, we had immediately established that might be an incredible opportunity for our club to expand its reach. Think about what I said. Not survive, expand. Right? So bear that in mind. We have wonderful opportunities. Now, here's another thing. I talked about this will be the third time. Payroll loans are forgivable, potentially completely forgivable. That's free money. Now, there's one other type of source, and that is right now, I just checked on this. Many banks are now offering gaps in payments. Now, let me tell you what's going on. Every bank It is not a federal requirement. It's just good, solid corporate citizenship on these banks' part. Depending on the bank, they could have all kinds of different regulations and forms and things like that. So your bank may offer a gap in your mortgage payments, a gap in your credit card payments, a gap in your car payments. Think about that. If you didn't have to pay for any of your mortgages, any of your credit cards, or anything on your car loans, right, for 90 days, doesn't that translate to a lot of capital that you now have available? It's a tremendous opportunity. So one of the things I'm going to encourage you to do is to check with your lender to see what type of deals they may offer you. Now remember, that's not by federal mandate. And of course, what Aaron said, now is the time to act. Not later, not after you've thought about it, not after you've done a whole lot of research. Get involved now, do the research as you're going. Now, this is sort of an interesting slide. It's a bit fuzzy because I took this directly from the SBA website. This is their process. And I'm going to look at the slide so I can quote it exactly. First, you apply for the loan. Thank God you don't have to use their website. You can download the form. Their website was torturous. I have volunteers who are working with us to learn the process. And these volunteers have reported as much as a 4 or 5 day delay trying to go through the website. So please download the form. It's a lot easier. Upload the form. Then what they want to do is they want to verify your property, right? SBA reviews your credit, conducting an inspection to verify your losses. The SBA verifier will estimate your total physical loss and your disaster damages on your property. A loan officer will determine your eligibility during the process after reviewing any insurance, et cetera, and so on. But one of the things, they verify your property. What does that mean? If you have a corporation, what do you think they're going to be looking for? Aaron, do you have any ideas of what they might be looking for when getting a corporate loan?
Well, yeah, because when it says property, a lot of us immediately go to real like land. But no, this applies to, they want to see that you're a real business, you're set up properly, you have receivables, you have, expenses. I was going to say payroll, but a lot of you don't have payroll. It may just be a solopreneur. And all you're doing is saying all of a sudden your revenue stream has been compromised, but they do want to go back and see that you've actually been up and doing something. As a matter of fact, one of the requirements is you have to have been in business by February 15th or before. So you can't go set up a new company today and get relief in this particular way. It had to have been something that was actually up and open 45 days ago.
Yep.
But they'll look back. And as a matter of fact, we learned last night, if you formed your company in January of this year, they'll use January and February as your, instead of looking back at tax returns, they'll look at that to start creating your averages.
Yep.
So they're going to look at what's really there, what's really at risk, and do you have the wherewithal to repay a loan? Because if you have no revenue at all, they're not going to loan you $250,000 or $10 million because you won't be able to pay it back. And you want to be sure that when you do go, if you get the money, that you don't consume the money. You use it for things that are going to be creating new revenues. Otherwise, you will be in deep trouble when it comes time to pay the loan back. Even though they're giving you a holiday before, I think it's a 6-month, is that right? Holiday before payments start.
Yes, I've heard all sorts of different timelines on that one.
Okay, all right. Well, so let's, but keep going because we've got about 15 minutes. We have a bunch of questions.
Very good. This slide right here will be one of the things that you'll get delivered to you once you sign up. Be glad to give you a copy of it. This is a quick description down and dirty of each one of the types of loans that are offered as relief, part of the relief package. Okay. And this has been quite a good primer, if you will. Please note, if you will, the row that says, is there a minimum credit score? Now, this particular source was a bank. And this bank, that may be their internal, but it's a guideline of what we can expect the SBA to do. 680 FICO score. You don't have to have perfect credit. You have to have good credit, right? And that last loan, Community Advantage loan, is only a 620 FICO score. And the big disaster loan, the $2 million, it's to be determined depending on your circumstances. So please understand, taking action now is a brilliant thing to do. Good and good? And there's your action right there. All righty. Come on, go. All right. One of the things we want you to do is protect your most valuable asset, and that's you. There's several ways to do that. Some of this is pretty straightforward: disability insurance, life insurance, long-term care insurance. We all know about that stuff. Well, what about business insurance? If you have business insurance, one of the things that I would tell you to do tonight before you go to bed, before you finish your bottle of wine, okay, I want you to read over your business insurance policy to see if it has business interruption insurance or any kind of coverage for what's happening with COVID-19. Good idea. You're already paying for it. You might as well see if you can make a claim on it. Besides which, the SBA will check anyway. And of course, this last item, home, auto, and personal liability. First course of defense is to make sure you have good insurance. Personal liability insurance is also called umbrella insurance because it covers you like an umbrella. If anybody sues you personally, they will help defend you, right? So understand that we want you to be protected because guess what? We think there's going to be a lot of lawsuits coming this way. Aaron?
Yeah, I think there will be a lot of lawsuits. As a matter of fact, I was speaking with an attorney earlier today who's got a pretty large firm, and he said they're already seeing the beginnings of it because people want someone to be responsible for their pain. And they're going to be looking at employers or people they have contracts with, or anybody that looks like they're doing a little bit better than the one who's feeling the suffering. There will be, it's generally assumed amongst all the legal people I've talked to that there will be a dramatic kind of onslaught of lawsuits.
Absolutely. I tell you, it's kind of frightening. I think about this for a minute. Do you think somebody's out there is upset with their employer? Do you think that could happen? Do you think some employee could disagree with the decision that the employer made? Do you think a vendor could disagree with how the bills were handled? There's so many different opportunities for lawsuits. It's not even funny. So please take this seriously. So Aaron, did you want to take over control or shall I continue?
Well, you know, Jim, let me just suggest, folks, let me just tell you, we were gonna spend some time talking about making sure your entities are set up correctly, that your corporate compliance is done properly. And if you don't know what I mean, I'll just simply say this. If you have a corporation or an LLC, you have an obligation under the law to hold regular board meetings, keep minutes of those meetings, pass resolutions, and there are hundreds of items that require board resolutions. Some of them are things you would never think you would need to have something formal, like how much petty cash you keep on hand, signing a new contract, signing a lease, loaning money, borrowing money, opening a bank account, and on and on and on and on. And these are all things that you want to make sure that you've got right, both from a reaching out and showing that you're a real business as you apply for money, also having that kind of impenetrable fortress around you as we come out of this so that if there is any litigation, you're safe. But rather than spending time on those other slides, Jim, what I'd love to do, because we're 10 minutes to the top of the hour, and we've got some interesting questions here that I'd like to, so guys, yeah, leave it right there for now. Anybody that wants the slides, that wants the cheat sheets that have been put together, that wants to get more help on this, and maybe wants help applying for a loan, wants to look at other things like how to access cash or how to eliminate some debt and free up cash so you're in a position to be a buyer if there's a fire sale rather than a seller. If anything like that, go and fill out the form at this URL, and Jim and his team and our team will work together to get you help and answers as best we can. So that's the closest thing there is to a pitch. What I'd love to do is go through a few of the questions that people are asking and just see if you know the answer, Jim. And I know that this has been a moving target. Some of the rules have been shifting. Some of the assumptions didn't come through in the instructions. There's stuff we heard on the news and bullet points that didn't actually make it into the legislation. So we want to be clear, guys, this is a huge piece of legislation. And we've got a whole group of people that are just focused like a laser beam on getting things straight, getting things clear. So if we don't have every answer, forgive us. Understand that we're working to get those answers. Fill this form out. Also go to Laughlin Thrive on Facebook because we're putting information in there. So let me ask a few questions. Here's one that's an interesting question, Jim. Will existing loans that have been taken out of a retirement account be a hindrance to accessing the remaining balances? Any ideas?
Yes, I have. I'm full of ideas. In fact, Lorraine was telling me last night how full of it I am.
No, we're not making jokes tonight. What's the deal on if I've taken some money and self-directed it?
You may run into. Every 401k is controlled by a trust document. The trust document could call for restrictions on the loans. That said, with COVID-19, I suspect what was the rules are now out the window. So I would push. So let me give you a scenario. Let's assume that you have $100,000 in a 401k and you have an outstanding loan of $35,000. I would push hard to the employer to create a new loan for $100,000 and start it all over, or at least a loan for the difference.
Can we borrow? Can you borrow from a Roth IRA?
No.
Okay. Yes, there will be a replay. A bunch of people have said, is there going to be a replay? So yes, the answer, yes. I've put the link back in. Okay. Is the $10,000, okay, so I'm going to ask you this question. I think I know the answer. I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but I want to ask you. So on the remember there are two kinds of loans, folks. 7A, which is payroll related. 7B, which is other business growth stuff related.
Yes.
And remember I said the 7B loans, there's a smaller pool. When you go to get a 7B loan, so Jim, follow me because I'm going to ask you a question on this.
Yes.
When you go to get a 7B loan, if you give them everything that they require of you, such that they will accept your application and put it through to underwriting. There's a moment between you giving them information and then submitting the loan to underwriting. At the moment they accept your application and say, we're going to send it to underwriting, that is when they will send you $10,000. If the loan is not approved, you don't have to pay the $10,000 back. But if the loan is approved, and this is the question, in my reading of it, and this is why I'd love it if you give me some clarity, if the loan is approved, then does the $10,000 just become part of the loan that eventually has to be paid back? That's what I understood it to be.
I would presume so. And please understand something. Nobody's ever done these COVID-19 loans before. Okay, what we understand the process to be right now, I don't even know the SBA knows how to do it. Okay,
Well,
they've been mandated by federal government. So what we say tonight could be different next week. That said, right now, think about this. You're the government, you create a loan, you've got this $10,000 caveat in there that if you've got urgency and you get your loan declined, you get to keep the 10 grand, right?
Yes.
Thank you for playing the game. However, if the loan is issued, my presumption is that $10,000 would go right back into the balance of the loan and be spread over the loan terms.
That's how I understand it as well. Now, the upside is SBA loans are difficult to get, but if you can give them everything they need, so they go, oh, this is a legitimate application, we're going to file it for underwriting, that kicks it in. So it's very worth going through the process of applying for it.
Yes.
And worst case scenario, you get a bigger loan at ridiculously low interest rate that you can use to not just stem this tide, but to grow. And if you can't figure out how to make more than 3.75% on money as an entrepreneur, I'm going to say something harsh, but maybe you shouldn't be an entrepreneur. This is not meant to just be free money, guys. This is opportunities to keep us going and growing through a very transitional moment in our history. So it's not like you're going to get your free cheese down at the warehouse. This is a time that we have unusually positive and easier ways to get help, because the government says we need to keep as many entrepreneurs in business as we possibly can. So let's make it easier for them.
Aaron, I think we lost your voice connection.
What a shame, because it was such brilliant.
Okay. I think we've lost Aaron temporarily.
Am I back? Jim?
Have I been disconnected?
No, I think I'm back.
You're back.
Yeah, the whole internet went down. Our internet went down, so I'm back on my hotspot on my phone. So the bottom line, we're at the top of the hour. Jim, anything else that you want to talk about before we wrap?
No, I was just showing them how simple it is to get through this. There are 12 questions. I'm already on question number 4, and I've been doing this for about 20 seconds. It literally is that simple. They'll ask you some questions that may not apply to COVID-19, but at the end they ask, is there anything that you're particularly interested in? That's where you put in COVID-19 and whatever questions you have, okay? Now, remember, it's a limited field, so just say COVID-19 and we'll know that you want to talk about COVID-19, or if you have a specific question, you can put that in there as well. But I wanted to invite people to get started, to get motion, to take action, because inaction is no action, and inaction is a recipe for disaster. We really want to see you succeed. We are offering our time at no charge for this initial consultation. If there can be value found, that's what we want to do. Aaron and I are deeply committed to your success.
We love working with the Conaways and with their company. We've worked with them for a long time. We have many clients who have had phenomenal results. And right now, it's sort of like the government. It's all hands on deck right now. And our desire is to help. So listen, we're at the top of the hour. There are, Joseph, would you mind typing your question into the chat rather than bring you up to speak? If you don't mind doing that, that'd be good. But for everyone's sake, we are at the top of the hour. We want to be respectful. Jim, are you able to stay and take a few more questions?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll keep monitoring this. So if you guys want to jump off, there will be a replay. We're still recording. If you want to ask questions, go ahead and put them in the chat, and that would be great. I've already started the application, but I stopped thinking you might be able to help. What would it cost for you to put in the application for me? There isn't one size fits all, guys. So let's get on the phone and let's have a conversation. Okay. Joseph wrote, do you know if there will be any SBA loan forgiveness? Have they done this in the past? I don't know if they've done it in the past. The forgiveness part will be on the payroll related items, payroll tax, vacation, it's a deferral. It's not free, but it's a deferral. There's also the going back and looking at, you're going to have losses now, and you can apply that to gains you had the last couple of years and get an immediate refund. Unfreaking believable that they're doing that. They're going back and saying you were successful before, you're struggling now, we're going to give you some of your tax money back. I've never seen them do that before.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Do you know if credit scores will be affected by the loans? The interest rate, your credit score is not going to go down because you got a loan, other than the way it would on any other loan, like if you get a hard inquiry. But
right.
Your credit, well, that's it. I think
your credit score won't be affected by the fact you made an application of the loan, except for the inquiry. Your credit score will only be impacted, or your ability to borrow will only be impacted by the amount of debt that you have. Your debt coverage ratio is the thing that you're talking about, but it's not a credit score impact. Does that make sense? So imagine I make $100,000 a year. I borrow $2 million from the SBA. Anybody want to look at me at that point, from that point forward, I have to be able to show that I can pay the payments on that $2 million plus my lifestyle, plus, and I have to be able to prove that. So if I get that loan, I probably won't be able to qualify for any other loans in the immediate future. Now, that doesn't mean that I can't get that paid down, I can't increase my income and the rest of it. That's just a temporary impact. You need to know that.
Jim, so there's a good question here, and I understand the confusion. It's what's the difference between the SBA loan and the EIDL idle loan, which that's the difference between the 7A and the 7B is what we're talking about here.
Okay.
Keep going.
The EIDL loan is the Economic Impact Disaster Loan. That's what we've been talking about. That it's the same thing. It's, tomato, it's the same loan process, right? The difference is they've loosened up their underwriting requirements. Okay, that's number one. Number two, the interest rate's particularly low. Number three, there are different aspects of the loans that Aaron has been talking about. If you're using it to pay payroll, you could have portions of that forgiven. Now think about this for a minute. Like most situations, it isn't just one thing and that's it, I'm done, it's all solved. It's multiple, right? So imagine I've got a payroll loan, I'm anticipating getting that forgiven. Imagine I've got emergency grant money to help me roll. Imagine that I've got a application for an SBA loan building. Now, what else can we do with the other assets in your life, right? You put it together, you end up making a beautiful, beautiful picture out of that. That's the opportunity.
Yeah, folks, the thing to remember is, yes, there will be some help if your revenue, if your livelihood has been compromised or wiped out. There will be help there. If you're an employer, like Jim and I both employ a bunch of people. So rather than saying, oh, we need to hunker down and let everybody go, what we can do is apply for the SBA loan. We're going to get the money, and we're going to, if we use it for what it's intended to be used for, which is to keep your employees going and and it's not just payroll. There's several items around health insurance and so on that are also included in that formulation. So keeping people on with their benefits is included. But if we take the money that was supposed to be for payroll and we go out and buy a new car, that's not going to get forgiven. But if we keep people on and we meet the criteria, and who the heck knows exactly how they're going to reconcile this with us? We don't know yet. There have been a number of ideas suggested. We don't know how the reconciliation will happen, but the intent of the legislation is that if you use it to keep your people on board, you're using it really for payroll and benefits, that part of it will be forgiven. Other money under the 7B loans, the idle part of the 7B loans, which would be about, we've lost marketing opportunities. We couldn't travel. We just something that happened that was coming up that you needed money for. You can apply for that money, hopefully get the loan, have a holiday period before you have to start making payments, and then you've got very low interest rate. The 7B loans are fixed at 3.75 for profit and 2.75 for nonprofit. The 7A loans are to be determined not more than 4%. So they're both super cheap loans. This is almost free money. And it's intended to help us become a better version of ourselves, to use our wits, to use our creativity to keep growing during a difficult time. The government relies on small business because small business creates 86.3% of GDP. So that's why they're doing this. There's other money unrelated to this money for the airlines and for the whomever else. That's not you guys. This is all about companies of 500 employees or less, all the way down to a solopreneur, independent contractor, gig worker. Everybody that's in that group counts. I don't know what that is, Jim.
Aaron, I wanted to go over covered individuals, the eligibility as we understand it right now.
Good. Yeah. And then we'll wrap up on that, I think, because we're not getting a lot more questions right now.
Okay, perfect. If you've been diagnosed with COVID-19, member of your individual's household's been diagnosed with COVID-19, individual providing care for a family member who's been diagnosed, individual and primary caregiver of a child or a person in the household is unable to attend school or other facility as a direct result of COVID-19. Individual who's unable to reach a place of employment because of quarantine. Individual unable to work because the healthcare provider has advised the individual self-quarantine. The individual was scheduled to commence employment and does not have a job or is unable to reach that job as a direct result of COVID-19. The individual has become a breadwinner or major support for a household because the head of the household has died as a direct result of COVID-19. Individual has quit their job as a direct result of COVID-19. Individual's place of employment is closed as a direct result of COVID-19. Now, this is only a partial list, right? The economic impact, you have to say that you have to have an economic impact. Now, from what we understand right now, it's more or less self-attestation. So for right now, you may just simply have to tell the government that I've had this much impact. I suspect they'll probably tighten that down here in the next couple of days or weeks, right? And on that note, unless there's more questions.
No, I think it's great. Just you guys go to the website that Jim's got up there and get this information, get a copy of the slides. We're going to send out a replay so you can watch it again or show other people or get clarity on things. You can go, zoom in, you can fast forward and reverse. I really encourage people to go to Laughlin Thrive, that group on Facebook, because we're filling it with all kinds of ongoing information. Our primary goal is to help you do two things. Laughlin's business is asset protection, growing a business. Jim's business, Jim and Lorraine and their whole group's business is wealth creation, wealth explosion. If we can look at this opportunity as a pause where we get to think a little differently, we get to decide what can we do under these circumstances. Let's take advantage of resources that were not there a couple weeks ago that are now. And let's find an interesting way to get ourselves through this cave on our hero's journey and slay the monster and come back victorious. This is what we can do. All right. But remember, let's not just come like pigs to the trough. There's rules associated with it. The government's not going to go crazy on you, but the opportunity right now is so mind-bogglingly fabulous. I've never seen this in 36 years of running companies. This is an opportunity, but don't sit on the sidelines and wonder, oh, maybe this isn't for me. You've got to get involved, get applications in. If you need help, make that known at this website that Jim's put up, and we will come together and figure out solutions. And let's sort this thing out. Let's be able to get back together a year from now and look back and say, look at everything we learned and look at how we grew, because we didn't sit on the sidelines as some shrinking violet, but we took authoritative control of our life. That's what entrepreneurs do. Let's take control. Let's go forward and let's get through this together. Okay. That's it for tonight, guys. There's still some more questions. Write on the website and put your questions in, and Jim and his team or our team will be able to answer them. What, is that right, Jim?
Absolutely.
All right. All right, guys, that's it for tonight. Thank you for being here. Thanks for being with us for an hour and 15 minutes. And there will be more coming. Watch for other notifications. We'll keep bringing you important information. We have several other upcoming webinars on slightly different topics, but all about growth in a time of transition. All right. Thank you, Jim Conaway. Thanks for all of you, many, many people who've been here. I look forward to seeing you all on the next webinar. Good night and stay healthy.
Good night.